G'day guys, Matt from Zero Split Heroes here, and today it's good to be back, and I'm gonna start talking about Ryzen again because that's what I do. Now, to be even more dorky dad than normal, the title of this one's gonna be Reasons to Ryzen. Wow, that was bad. Okay, essentially, I want to talk about the pros and cons of the Ryzen launch, the system. I have one, so I can actually use that as a demonstration as well. Um, but essentially, I want to just try and cover off some of those myths as well. There's been a few issues where people have thought, oh, Ryzen can't do this, can't do that, blah, blah, blah. You see all these talks about how it'd have lower FPS, all this type of nonsense. All right, so first things first, Ryzen's been awesome. I went and bought the Ryzen 7 1700. So that is the lowest end of the 7 series that was released. However, each one of those chips is identical. The difference being is some of the things being unlocked and the core speed which they shipped with. Now, if you've actually bought Ryzen, or if you even to let you know, essentially there is a product that comes with your Ryzen system, or it can be downloaded from the internet, all that type of thing, called Ryzen Master. Now, the Ryzen Master software from AMD is a really easy way of doing overclocking. It's a nice little setup. You can see, I'll put up some video about it, but essentially it is a product that just straight away you can overclock, and is quite comfortable in doing the overclocking, and you can do it very gradually, and it is honestly one of the easiest overclocking processes I've done so far. Now, that isn't to say that there is some quirks or there's some issues, namely in regards to overclocking the RAM. Now, a difference that you'd find between AMD's series and with Intel's series is that RAM speed actually really matters. Previously with Intel, there was enough power and speed to kind of cover over any RAM speed, and it didn't really cause any issues, whereas the performance of the AMD system is built largely on the RAM speed at which it runs. So really, overclocking the core speed is really beneficial of your product that you get that's an AMD system. However, getting that RAM speed up to an appropriate level that you can actually push it on said board and with the amount that your RAM's capable of is really, really important. Now, this board that I bought, definitely one of the lowest end you can get. Picked because it was a B350 that had two M.2s and wasn't too expensive. It's been okay. It's had some issues that will be reviewed a little bit later on, but is limited to 2666 speed, or 2667 speed, sorry. That's megahertz, and my RAM is 3000 megahertz RAM. Now that's not a lot, there's only a little bit of space left, but that little bit of space would be quite a difference in performance. Now, I've had a wonderful opportunity to use Cinebench, something I've never used before that I'm pretty sure only exists to prove that Ryzen's really fast. That really shows off faster thread speeds and stuff, and it was a really good product to have. And if you do get Ryzen, I'd suggest using Ryzen Master to get the core speeds up and your RAM speeds up, and then using Cinebench to actually benchmark how, like, it gives you a figure, and if you get a higher score, it lets you know with a numerical value whether you're actually improving or not. Now, that has been there's a challenge there, there's an issue there, that type of thing. Some people would find that a little bit overwhelming. Now, I went the 1700 because that's not particularly overwhelming for me. I've been overclocking for about a few years now. And it's one of those things where you're like, okay, cool. Let's give it a go. It is very easy to approach, and AMD has provided paperwork and guidelines, and there's a PDF guideline online that they provide for you to actually just kind of understand how they do it, and you can do it safely within what their options are. You, of course, can try to push it as far as you want, but Stability is still an issue with that. Now, moving into that, stability is still an issue with this system, with this launch, with this family of CPUs. Now, its stability is only an issue where you are pushing the product. People who have gone and bought the X series, so the 1800X, the 1700X, 1600X, or 1500X, 1400X, will have not had as many of those issues. Now, they have to buy their own cooler, but it's one of those things where the issues of that, they already run at the higher speeds. You don't have to overclock them. You will still need to try and overclock your RAM to make sure it runs at the right speed that it's rated at, which will improve your performance of your chip, but they don't have the same stability issues that the people who are pushing them a little bit, like this guy, um, will have. And it's one of those things where we can't iron those out. I'm willing to put the effort just to make sure that it runs well. Now, for those wondering, I am running my Ryzen 7 1700 at 3.9 gigahertz, and that's just 3.9 flat, didn't bother going into the little breakdowns, at 1.32 volts, which is a very acceptable amount of power running coursing through that. And then I've run my RAM at 2667, as I was saying before, which is still a little bit less than I'd like, but with that tweaking, it was very easy to hit. So those types of things, and you get that stability, and I've actually got that stable now. Cinebench has been fantastic to test stability because it actually pushes that system pretty hard. Now, those are some of the initial things. Now, people have talked about frame rate loss. I have gamed with this. Didn't notice a damn difference. The issue was is, we were a little bit spoiled by people when they were showing the frame rate loss. Now, if we were talking in 4K, there is barely a system that can push past 60 like frames per second at 4K. There is a absolute limitation on hardware's capacity and capability to actually do anything in 4K at the moment. And in the same way, when people have seen, oh, it's got a 10 to 15 frames difference in 1080p using a 1080 Ti. A 1080 Ti is not built to do 1080p. That is the almost definition of overkill. And when I see that, it gets 200 frames per second with an Intel, I don't know, say for example, the comparisons I saw between the Ryzen's, well, I guess 1800X against the highest end i7, which was the KB Lake 7700K, which is an i7, and it's one of those things where, yes, technically the i7 performed better, but we were talking about frame rates at a rate that if people can tell the difference, you have some talent. Seriously, we were talking 150 frames per second to 140 frames per second. That is, by all definitions, buttery smooth. But people will look for the difference. And as I was saying before, I've managed to overclock my 1700 to the same level as an 1800X, and it cost me $300 less. So if you think about that comparison, that you save money, you take those little bits away, and you go, okay, well, I can accept a little bit of frame loss. It costs less than what those other products do, and it has so much more capability. Now, the other issue people had was the hype. The hype was, wow, just incredible. I was hyped up about the product because I wanted to see competition come back to the market. Intel have not been able to return serve without creating more questions of where they're actually going or how corporate fat cats are still running that place. Not to be offensive to Intel, I've really enjoyed their products. Please don't ban me. But there is a real feel of, gee, you've been charging a little bit too much for too long, and it's time for a bit of a change of the guard. And if you ever need an example of that, there was a i3 K series released in Kaby Lake. Wow, that is not necessary at all. There's just, wow. Okay, and in comparison to, say, when you actually look at a comparative product that's 8-core 16 thread from Intel, you're looking at about $1,000 minimum. thousand at least. 1200 was one of the ones I saw, and my system now costs less than $1,200, and there's no way I could ever justify spending that much on just a CPU. And that's what it's come down to. And the hype in regards to it being an Intel killer, no. But yes, it is. It's one of those things where I believe the term is Rome wasn't taken in a day or something. I didn't burn in a day or something like that. But it's one of those things. I wasn't built. It wasn't built in a day. My goodness, Rome wasn't built in a day. And in the same way, AMD's new kingdom that they're building is going to take a little bit of time. But it is coming. It is really coming. You can see it. You can see Intel starting to sweat, especially recently with i9 versus Epic slash Threadripper from AMD. Ooh, I feel as though the blood's in the water. The footsteps are being heard. All those fun nonsense statements that have nothing to do with IT parts. Alas, the initial hype of it being able to kill Intel, no, but it is killing their market share. It is starting to, Ryzen's starting to get put into performance laptops. I saw a Republic of Gamers laptop that's going to have Ryzen in it. That's amazing. I didn't think I'd see that. I thought for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of other people did. I had an an AMD system, sorry, an A10. I love that little thing. And I thought that was the last one you get. I actually kind of kept it as nostalgia for a bit there because I didn't think I'd be able to get AMD again. And what do you know? Here they are again. And I think there's something coming. Now, a lot of people have said, there's the next one is. It's funny. A lot of these ups and downs, a lot of these pros and cons, kind of mix and meld into each other. And one of the big ones for me was where people were talking about how it's, once again, not a gaming thing. It's not for consumers. Now, the 7 series that came out, the Ryzen 7 series, were never made for games. You can almost say that flat out. That's not what their performance is built for. They're built for content creation and streaming, which you can do with games. But it's not always games. They've got a great capacity to be a absolute multi-threaded beast of a machine that costs less than what it normally would. And Xeons are awful. And Xeon motherboards are awful as well. Whereas if you really want to look at the gaming side, so when they being AMD released the 5 series, so I'm going to particularly look at the 1600 and the 1600X here. They're absolute my favorites of the whole release that AMD's done so far. These products come in cheaper than most i5s. They are 6 core, 12 thread. They game at just the same level. They will hit 4 to 4.1 gigahertz, which isn't the lofty heights of nearly 5 gigahertz on the Intel system, but it doesn't matter. They cost less. They have future capability as well. i5s are 4 core, 4 thread. That's not on top of each other. That's what they are. Whereas these are 6 core, 12 thread. And they perform incredibly well. And they cost less. And the 1600 uses less power. And comes with a cooler. So does the Intel one, depending which one you get. But these are my favorite of this system. This is the actual gold mine. If you're say for example, if I were streaming video games, that is the product I would buy. I'm still tempted to get a 1600 because I love the capacity of it. It is the possibilities of that product is just unbelievable because in one sentence you could use it as a mobile build, like a mobile workstation. You could use it as a mobile content creation. I could go to a LAN using it as a gaming PC and stream with my mates and still be able to stream with them whilst playing games, whilst recording, and have a great old time and not see any drop. Whereas I have the 1700. I like having it here in its nice big case and kind of set aside. It's a real workstation thing. It still does everything. It does all the normal things. It's our internet machine as well. Like it is the all in all for us. But it has capacity to do the workhorse stuff, which I really want it to do. And the 1600 can do the workhorse stuff with the 6 cores and the 12 threads, but it can also game. And the negative that a lot of people said is, oh, its IPC is too low. So IPC is the amount of processors it can complete. And yes, Intel had quite a lead on those things, but that was because AMD was new. Those like the people producing products that would actually use these CPUs. So say games designers, right, are only creating systems like they still create games based off of dual core computers or even quad core computers, which has become almost the norm now, the true market share. What happens when they start increasing the improvement just on a few extra threads? All of a sudden, it won't take long because even Intel's seen that and they're starting to add more threads. So if Intel's pushing it, the market leader's pushing it, then Ryzen will benefit from that the whole time. They are already cheaper. The 1600 has 6 cores, 12 threads, compared to a 4 competitor. There's, I actually think they've won this round. I didn't think I would be able to say that after the 7 series release. It was good. I'm very happy with my 7 series, but after that Ryzen 5 series, ooh, okay, things have definitely changed. Yes, they can't overclock to the mighty 5 gigahertz. What the hell gain are you getting from 5 gigahertz of overclock? That wouldn't relate to as much actual frames in a game as what you would think. And it uses a lot more power than what you would think as well. And the Kaby Lake has shown to be a bit more power hungry than what was first thought. There is such a great opportunity to get, say, the 1600 and save your money towards getting something, I don't know, like a really awesome graphics card, which we are spoiled with at the moment. It is a wonderful time to be a PC gamer, or a PC content creator, or a PC builder. Hell, someone who wants to try this stuff. There's just so much capacity out there, and there's so much enthusiasm from people like me who like building these systems for people. This is a wonderful challenge to the market that I think is just a full positive. Ryzen has come in and just killed it in my mind and will continue to kill it because Intel just keeps going for the super high end. That's not where your market share is. And i7 isn't going to have the same appeal anymore. Ryzen's got a kind of cool name too, which doesn't hurt. It's all about marketing at this point. And I think we're going to see a bit of a shift. It's fantastic to see. So when it comes down to the positives and negatives, there's teething problems. There, as any new launch is going to have, there's still issues with the manufacturers and their way they support their systems. Currently noticing ASRock isn't so great on the supporting side of things, and in that way I will upgrade because it holds me back. But the chipset's been fantastic, and we will only see more positives, I think. AMD have put the effort in, and they've continued to put the effort in. This is a great time. Thanks heaps, guys. So essentially, if you can't get my point here, I am a Ryzen fan. I wouldn't say fanboy as such. I'm a real fan of what they've done, of what AMD has put into that market and just challenged that paradigm a little bit, and shifted the focus of the market and the consumers and the actual like producers of multi-core performance. And I think we shall see quite a change in the next few years. And hell, hopefully that change includes some price drops. This is Matt of Zero's Play Heroes. I'm glad to be back. Have a great day gaming, an even better day in tech, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.